If you've ever fallen in love with a fictional duke, a fae prince, a pirate king, a vampire, or a morally gray warlord, you're in the right place. Welcome to Historic Hearts Club, the podcast that dives into the fantastical world of historical romance and romantasy with your hosts, Marisa Coulter and Mary Pope. The spoilers will be spilt and the tea piping hot as we unpack this week's spicy read. And this week's read was chosen by me. I chose the book, The Worst Duke in England. And this book was written by Sandra Sookoo. It was a very good, very spicy read, definitely higher on the spice scale than some of our other historical romance novel picks. So that was very exciting. But before we dive too far into the book, Mary, how have you been? What's new in your life?
I've been busy. I am planning to go out to a new restaurant with a bunch of my friends tomorrow, so that's going to be really
Fun.
exciting over in Santa Monica. I feel like I've really embraced being more social this year, and
Nice. Good.
I've had multiple nights in January where I'm like staying out until 1:30 in the morning. So I don't know if this is really going to be sustainable throughout the rest of the year, but big shift from me being a hermit last year.
You know what? I feel like last year was just you getting your feet wet with California. You just moved
I
to
think
a
that's
new
true.
state. You needed to get your feet under you. And now this is the year of fun, putting yourself out there, living your life. I
Yes.
love it for you.
Yes. I know. Hopefully, I will find my Duke or Fay Prince in one of these bars or restaurants. So please, dear listeners, keep your fingers crossed for the updates on my love life. But that's kind of, that's me. I'm just, working my new job and I'm going out to lots of new restaurants and new bars, which is wild.
I can't even believe it, Jane. I'm like thinking about all the things I need to do for my day job. And
Me
it's a
too.
little anxiety inducing.
I know,
But
I
what can you
know.
do? That's okay.
What
You
it
just through it and you let it shape you.
Yeah, just living, just living. How have you been though? What's going on?
Been good. My life is a little less exciting than yours in terms of going out to new places. We did find a new Mexican restaurant that's like 2 minutes away from our house that we love.
Incredible.
We just went last night, so that was really fun. We also made sloppy joes this week, which were delicious. I
I
haven't
love those.
haven't I do too. I forgot that until I made them this time around that these sloppy joes used to be my favorite food when I was younger.
I think I
I
asked for
loved
them a
it.
lot. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I loved it when my mom would make those, and I hadn't had them in so long, and then just randomly, I asked Matt, "What do you want for dinner tonight?" And he's like, "What about sloppy joes?" And I was like, "Say less. Say less."
So they're so easy to make, right? I should do that.
So
I should.
easy. So easy. And I also forgot I used to make sloppy joe meat and then would like make it into like a little sloppy joe bowl with like some sweet
Yeah.
potatoes and different things. And like there's so much to do with sloppy joes. You don't have to just eat it in a burger bun. Like
Yeah.
you can think outside the box. I'm here for
Outside the
it.
bun, if you will.
Outside the bun. But yeah, so clearly not a lot is happening in my life if that is what I am really updating you on. But
The
my
suburb
bell
mom life right there.
It is, but my belly was happy. I have no regrets in resurrecting the recipe for sloppy joes. And yeah, I mean that's pretty much that.
Yeah, I also love sloppy joes. There's so many like wholesome meals like that, which
Yeah.
I know we're gonna dive into the book in a minute, but I always like think about the food from different time periods because I there was a restaurant in downtown Denver, I think it's still there called like the A5 Steakhouse, that was like a 1970s themed menu. It was a new restaurant, but like
Uh,
they were trying to serve mostly 1970s recipes. And it's just fascinating to me that food like profiles and what's popular changes because I guess like as much as I know style and all these other things change, I'm kind of like, well, food is constant and it's really not.
No.
When we're like reading these historical romance novels, I'm always like, what did things really taste like? We should have a cook along is kind of where I'm going with this.
We definitely should. I would love to do that. I do often think the same, like when they talk about like all of these courses too, right? Like in historical romance times, like they would have all of these different courses for food, and like they'd
Mhm.
always have a fish course and all of these fish dishes with these wine sauces. I'm like, give me some. I would love
I wanna
that.
eat
Like,
that. Yeah.
please. I know. Also, I do wonder too. I'm like, how did they stock this larder with so much diversity of food? Like, and I guess realistically, it probably wouldn't have been that diverse. And I guess in the case of like a duke that owns an estate too, there would likely be a gamekeeper and there would be a constant flow of like fresh
I want
new
that.
game. But I mean, I wouldn't mind that. That sounds nice. Like,
But yeah,
give me more of that.
they didn't have refrigerators, right? So I know they have like ice houses, but everything was mostly fresh and they were
Yeah,
eating these elaborate meals all the time. Fascinated. I
I
just
know.
want to know what it tastes like, you know? I wonder if there's a cookbook out there for the Regency era because there
There's
has to
got to
be.
be. There's got to be. We have to look into this further.
We
I
do,
also
we do.
don't understand how women weren't 800 pounds, because if I ate like that every day, you'd have to roll me around the house,
I
like
know.
point
True.
blank.
Yeah,
I
because
don't
you
know.
can't even go to the gym, you know? They're
No,
walking. That's
you take
it.
like a daily constitutional outside and that's about it. And like, unless you have a pretty progressive husband, it's not even like you're riding your horse without a side saddle. So
Yeah.
the lack of
Wow.
exercise is,
Wouldn't bode
well,
well for my figure.
you know where they do get some exercise is between those sheets. And so
Mhm.
we are going to
True.
dive in to this week's spicy read, Promise to the Worst Duke in England, again by Sandra Sookoo. I'll give a little bit of an overview and then I have some things that I would love your thoughts on, Mary. But essentially,
Mhm.
the story follows the sixth Duke of Averly, and he's notoriously known as the worst Duke in England. He obviously has some past emotional trauma that is making him such a terrible break, but he's known for indulging in decadence and drinking a lot, essentially avoiding his responsibility because as a young child, his father and the father of our female main character, Imogen, they basically betrothed their kids together when Imogen was only 2 years old. Alan was like 12, 11 or 12, I think they said.
Mhm.
And as an adult, the Duke of Averly, he completely just rears his responsibility. He does not want to get married to her. He's in no rush. He doesn't see, any benefit from getting married very quickly. So she's kind of just sitting along, living her life as a spinster now because he's dragging his feet. And his aunt basically does not give him a choice, says, "You are marrying this young woman in 3 days' time, and you better come to terms with that fact or else." And honestly, throughout the book, I kept thinking to myself, I'm like, why? This man definitely rolled over very easy. Like, he clearly was looking for something to fulfill his life because he basically says, yes, obviously there's some moaning and groaning, but he agrees to marry Imogen, and thinks of it kind of as like a service to her. Like, I'm finally marrying her. Like, she better be grateful. Little does he know that Imogen wants this marriage just as much as he does. She does not want to get married to him. She thinks that it's a farce, that her father betrothed her basically for monetary gain when she was only 2 years old. And I love how she pulls that into play at their wedding by wearing a dress that's like trimmed in this black velvet, an ode to the
Mhm.
death of her previous life. Like, love that girl.
I love a drama
You're
queen.
doing it. Yes.
Yes. Yes, she is like,
I,
"It's a funeral for my freedom, and I hate you."
yes. I
Iconic.
literally loved it. I loved that. And what I love even more is that we dive very quickly into the intimate scenes here. On their way
Mhm.
from the wedding to his estate, they're in the carriage, and nothing
Yeah,
good
they
ever
are.
happens in a closed carriage.
I think lots of good things happen in a closed carriage.
Clearly, my gosh. First of all, I really appreciated that in the beginning of this book, like kicking things off with a bang. Essentially, what Imogene does is she's like, this guy, first of all, is so up his own butt. Like, he needs to be taken down a peg. So, what does she do? She self pleasures herself. in front of him. And I love that she takes that into her own hands and drives him crazy. Like, he has met
Yeah,
his match.
she's basically like, "I'll marry you, but you're never gonna actually be able to touch this, but you're gonna want to." And
Yes.
basically she's like, I, because she has a dark past too, and she's like, "I have some demons. I'm not the angel maybe you thought I was, and
Mhm.
and I'm gonna let you see that, but not touch. You can look, but you can't touch." But before we dive into more of this, I think there's a couple trigger warnings we might wanna give, right, Marissa?
There is. Yes, absolutely. So, I do wanna give some trigger warnings here. So, take them as you will, but
Mhm.
we do have the trigger warnings of suicide, verbal abuse, some issues around consent, familial sexual assault, and murder. Some of these are lighter than others, but to be
Mhm.
respectful to any listeners, we just want to throw those out there because these topics do come up in the book. And quite frankly, I mean, I think that they're written in a way that definitely adds to the emotional bridging and arc that happens between the two main characters. They really do kind of trauma bond over what they have experienced in their past and help each
Mhm.
other heal from it. So just know that there is a happy ending at the end. They do help each other through grief and through feelings of guilt and feelings of worthlessness. And to see that, that's a beautiful part of the story. I did really enjoy.
Yes, they were really complex characters, which
Mhm.
I love. Like I love like that dark depth that can be written into characters. I love it in real life. I'm always like, who are you actually outside of just your bubbly self, Because that's
Right.
that's really where like the real humanity is. And like what's your backstory? And I feel like Sandra Sookoo really did a great job of providing so many layers to each of these
Mhm.
characters, and you don't have to like wait to get to the whole book to start to see their layers and their
Yeah.
complexity. And like what you're saying, it really helps them kind of come together, which it all happens very fast. I feel like the whole book is happening kind of over the course of a week or so.
Yeah.
But it's because they have all of that depth that they get so drawn to each other and can understand each other, and, like, they are
Mhm.
able to form that connection and that, emotional bond so quickly. So, I loved it. I think that all of those, like, those dark layers really added
Mhm.
so much to the story.
I completely agree, and you know what? I was remiss in putting one very important detail into the beginning of the synopsis of the book, and that is that prior to getting married, Imogen writes to her cousin, who's a man, that she does not want this marriage. She is so upset with her father, and she pleads with her cousin to kill her husband and off him for her.
Diabolical. Diabolical.
Diabolical, already setting this marriage up for success. Not.
She's like, "I've
Um,
I've never met him, but please kill him, or at least make
yes,
me a widow so that I don't have to live through this." Oh my god, can you imagine? I would be like, "Well, I'm
literally.
gonna at least meet him, before I write that letter off." Jesus.
I was shocked and shook. Um, but getting back to the carriage scene, I loved the carriage scene. I loved that what we find out about Imogen is that she, in her past, suffered through the physical and sexual abuse of her uncle. And bef- basically, it started escalating. It got worse and worse. She tried to tell her parents relentlessly. They never listened to her. She took to sleeping with a knife under her pillow and essentially, in this penultimate scene where her uncle intends to rape her, she is able to grab her knife and stabs her uncle in the heart. She kills her uncle. The parents have to kind of cover it up. She's loosely referred to in the town as like the girl who killed her uncle. So, like, obviously servants talk and such. But that being said, with that context, thinking about the carriage scene, I love that despite the fact that consent was taken from her, you know, feelings of protection were taken from her, she still is able to hold on to her own sexuality and not only find pleasure but be able to pleasure herself and also like not be afraid to give him pleasure too and I just gave her a lot of credit for emotionally being able to
Mhm.
move past that, because that is just so difficult, and, like, I really enjoyed that aspect of the intimate scenes because knowing her past and knowing what she had to overcome in order to let herself do those things and be vulnerable in that way with someone, it really pulled at my heart.
Yeah, such a strong woman, essentially,
Mhm.
because I feel like you don't get as many stories about that where someone has suffered that type of trauma when they're young
Mhm.
and then they're still able to just easily be in control of their own pleasure and like not ashamed about it, right? And the carriage scene was hot, right? Like she's stripping down, she is
Mhm.
exposed up here, and she is that's just like a lot of self pleasure. And Averly is trying to kind of play it off initially, being like, I don't really care, like go whatever, show your tits, like I don't whatever.
Yeah.
And then it keeps going, and then he's just like she's listening for his gasps as she's like hiking up her skirts and everything, and it's like he was in it. He was having a great time.
He
Great
was
show.
in it. He was here for the show. He bought his ticket. He was sat. He was sat. I loved that scene. And then afterwards, they arrive at his estate, and it's pretty tension filled for the both of them. Obviously, he has not opened up at this point about what his past entailed, what kind of brought him to be the hard, unfeeling person that he is, that's so reluctant to even trust or think about loving. But they definitely have some tension. That's for sure.
They have yeah, they have some tension, and some of it gets released at dinner because it kind of Beauty and the Beast vibes. An
Mhm.
elaborate dinner is set for like their first day as husband and wife, and he goes down there. Imogen is not down there, and he's like, where is she?" And they were like, "She said she'd take her dinner on a tray." And so he marches up to her room, throws open the doors. She's standing fully dressed for an elegant dinner and just refusing to go down because he assumed that she would. Naturally, he throws her over his shoulder, hot, and she carries her down to dinner, super hot. And then they don't even end up eating. He just rips
Nope.
off her dress and they have like hate sex. And then it's just like, oh my God, like, what is this book? Oh my God.
I was so there for the hate sex of it all. There's nothing better
It
than
was
being
hot,
thrown
guys.
over a shoulder. Like, I loved that. I thought that was
Hmm.
fantastic. I mean, to be a servant in that household and hearing what had to have been quite the lack of
Oh
conversation,
my God.
I can't even have.
Just dishes crashing. And then there's like the book is like it's the narration is like she's thrown over the table and her feet can't even touch the floor, and I'm like, I love this. I love this for her. Honestly, it's
I
incredible.
know. I know. I
But
I was
then
here for that.
yeah. And then they come down after like that high into basically a depression, and I'm like, wow, you guys are
Mhm.
both unstable. So that was kind of like the first hint of like, ooh, this is going to be a roller coaster for these two.
Yeah.
Um
Well, and based on their past, I mean, and based on her past, I feel for her because she's constantly feeling, because of how she was made to feel by her parents, unheard, misunderstood, insignificant. She's constantly battling throughout the whole book with this like negative self talk and this constant questioning of his feelings because here and there
mhm.
he'll drop these things or do these actions that would suggest that he feels something for her, whether that's friendship, whether that's more, you know, it is what it is, but she can hardly believe it because she doesn't believe she's worth it. And I do find that
Yeah.
part very, very sad. I do love that he ends up letting her have like a little artist studio.
Yes, and
I
he's
thought
so
that was
proud of
really
her.
sweet. He's so proud of her art. She is a
Yeah.
really good watercolorist and painter, and he allows her a space where she can do her painting, which I really appreciated that gesture. I thought that that was really sweet. But as things start to thaw a little bit between them and, they're starting to see glimmers of each other's real personalities underneath all of the hurt and the layers that they try to hide behind, um, the cousin comes to town.
Cousin comes to town. He tries to kill Averly. And then we
Bullet to
learn
the ear.
that, yeah, bullet to the
Thank
ear.
God.
While he was out riding, the horse comes back to the stable, no rider. Everyone panics. Imogen's like, I'm gonna go march and find my husband of like the past 36 hours because like he couldn't have
Yes.
gone far. And she finds him. He's like, oh, I'm sure this was just a freak occurrence. And she's definitely like,
She's like,
no.
shit. She's like, oh no. She's like, you mean,
I mean,
well, and at
I'm
first,
starting to like him.
right. And at first he doesn't like mention the shooting. He's just like, I fell off my horse and hit my head. Like, it's not that big of a deal. And he's like, but my horse got spooked and that's why I fell off because someone shot at me. And she's like, fuck. She's like, oh no.
Like, yeah, girly, if you weren't so rash, maybe you should have met him and then written the letter, given the marriage maybe 5 days before asking
Five
for someone
days.
to off your husband.
That's it. That's it. And to your point, this has been less than 36 hours. And this cousin is like, Imogen, I got you. I will be there with my gun and I will take this husband out. You don't even have to wait a
Because
week.
we find out that her cousin was her lover. And I just feel like the whole Philip the cousin story arc is like, of course he's going to show up and want her as soon as he can't have her because
Yeah.
she just got married to somebody. I was just like, oh my God, you were so stereotypical. Like she's off the market and now you're like, I love you.
And
We'd be
now
so
you
great
want
together.
her. Right. And it's not even like she's in a courtship. She's full on married. And he's like, yeah, this is the
To a
appropriate time
duke.
to stake my claim.
Yeah.
Philip,
So
what are you
then
thinking?
she goes out into the garden, finds Philip, yells at him, and she's like, I want you to call it off. Like, I don't know if I want you to kill him. And he's like, well, too bad. I'm going to kill him because your letter made me realize that I love you.
He literally reminds me of like a cartoon movie character that's like, hee hee hee, I'm going to kill him no matter what you think. And then he just runs away. Catch me if you can.
Yes. So embarrassing for him
Yeah.
as a man, but live your life, Philip, I guess. And then Averly finds out that she was in the garden with some man because the servants, they're loyal to him. They love
Mm-hmm.
him. And he is furious. He storms out and he's like, why is my wife talking to some man? Gives her the chance to come clean. And
Well, and
he's like, were you talking to
before he does that, we also need to add that basically as soon as she gets to the estate, she's told she needs to plan a ball in like a week's time. And
right.
while he's like seething and so mad and he's about to go out to the garden, he sees all of this hard work that she did for this midsummer ball in the ballroom. And he's like, he cools down a tiny bit because he's like, wow, this woman like doesn't particularly like me, didn't want to marry me. And yet, she's working so hard for me after I told her, hey, plan this ball that I usually plan in like a week's time. And oh, by the way, my ball used to be a giant orgy. So I don't know what you're going to do with that now, but like, have
That is
at it.
on Midsummer's Night, which is just, I like that, the symbolism.
I did too.
Yeah. And she's like, well, it's not going to be an orgy. And also, I'm just thinking, I'm like, I feel like part of the reason he was so impressed with everything she was doing is because I'm like, well, what did you really plan before? Really? You just like had
Yeah.
champagne and were like, well, there'll be food, like no decorations. Because I know that Imogen did a great job, and I think it was very described as like very like fairy tale
Yeah.
naturey, and I loved that. But I'm also just like, well, did you just like invite a bunch of people over and we're like, well, no reason to wear clothes. You're just gonna take them off later, and here's a bottle of brandy. Like, is that the vibe he was giving off? What are your thoughts? What do you think
That's
that
the
ball used to
vibe.
be like?
So that's the vibe that I'm getting. Although he does like decadence, so I could see him having like potentially given the reins to like the housekeeper and butler or whatever and ordered them to like I'm seeing that he did put a little into it, like probably some sumptuous red velvet wall hanging things like from the ceiling and all around just to make it a den of iniquity. My kind of ball
Yeah,
really is what I'm saying.
I would go. I would go.
I'd go. I'd go. I mean, it sounds like it's
Hmm.
bound to be fun in some way, shape, or form.
Sure does.
Yeah, I mean, I'd totally go. I'd go to both balls. Both entice me in different ways. So, you know,
Yes, yes, agree.
different flavor for every person. But anyways, all that is to say, though, back to your point, Mary, he's storming through the house. He's ticked. He finds her and then gives her the opportunity to come clean.
He does not. She's like, no, I wasn't meeting a man. And
Cringe,
and
girl.
then
Cringe.
I
I
know,
was
like
like,
if he's leading you on like that, he knows. Just tell the truth
just tell him.
and
Just
say it's
tell
your
him.
cousin. You don't have to say it
Right.
was your cousin lover.
You
You don't
don't
have
have
to
to
say
say,
I asked him to kill you.
right. You don't have to divulge those things at all. I kept thinking was like, just say it's your cousin. Like, he thinks it's some random man, your lover. And yes, he was your cousin lover, but like, you don't have to say that yet. Ugh.
So that was a whole thing. And also we didn't even mention, but Averly's mistress comes to call.
Oh my God.
Can
The
you
pit,
imagine?
Mary. The pit. And my God. So, yes, you're right. We definitely should have mentioned this. So, Averly has had a longtime mistress. And quite frankly, she seems like a very sweet woman.
She was very sweet. Yeah.
Yes, but she's basically served as mistress and best friend and confidant to him. So she knows all of his secrets. She's been there for him, been a shoulder to kind of lean on throughout all of his vices and everything, and is stuck by his side. And essentially, Averly's out getting himself wasted, and she, since he's unavailable, calls on Imogen. And Imogen's like, are you kidding me? The gall of this woman. But what she finds in the drawing room is this kind of shell of a person. Like, she can tell she's not really quite well. And it turns out she's dying of consumption, and she hasn't told Averly because she doesn't have the heart to do so. Now, Mary, I have to ask you this because as I was reading that part, I thought it was awfully ballsy for her to be like, hey, new wife of my protector, listen, this is going to be too hard of a conversation to tell him that I'm dying. Can you just do it for me? Like,
Was unhinged because in my head I was like, girl, like what if Imogen tells your protector that you're dying in a really cold and heartless way? Like,
right.
or like what if she doesn't at all? Like she could say all
Yeah.
sorts of things. You are just blindly trusting her. And like maybe that was her appeal to Averly in the beginning, that like she is just kind of like a pure of heart,
Yeah.
I don't know, send to bed. But
Right.
I thought that was, like, so trusting and so different, I feel like,
Mm-hmm.
from all the other mistresses that have showed up in the books we've talked about and reviewed so far, where they're all much
Agreed.
more, like, kind of conniving, possessive, and Averly's mistress was just very sweet and just
So
like, "I love him
nice.
too much. I don't want him to remember me like this. Will you please tell him on my behalf?" Just a sweetie.
I know. And then
Who's gonna
Imogen's
die?
like, ugh, fine. She's like, yeah, I guess I will.
Yeah. Yeah, and at this point, Imogen doesn't even like her husband at all. Like, they just had their hate sex. I think this is earlier. Yeah, and so she's like, "I don't even want him, but he's technically mine, and so, like, why are you here?" And then it ends up with agreeing to tell him, and which was sweet. Very big person of Imogen to do that. I
Mm-hmm.
don't I probably would do that, but I also would be hateful. So,
I probably would too. I mean, I think I would feel compassion for the woman because she like clearly is pretty like
yeah.
meek and defenseless. So like I do it. I do it.
Yeah. I'd do it, I think.
Wouldn't love doing it, but I do it.
No. Okay, and then so after the garden scene, then we get to this other scene. I know maybe I'm skipping ahead a little bit,
No, it's okay.
but
We can
then
skip.
it starts to get kinky. And there's basically I feel like these wooden dildos that Averly likes to use to pleasure his partner. And I'm just concerned because in both the spice scenes where I feel like the dildos are, like, really described, and they're calling them dilettos initially, and then he calls them
Hmm.
dildos because 'cause they're from Italy, which tracks, I feel like. But they're covered in they're wood and they're covered in leather, and I don't know about you, Marissa, but I'm just concerned about the cleanliness, because it's hard to clean leather, and I was like, "I don't like this. Why can't
Uh,
it just be wood?"
well, and in lots of other books that I've read with that particular kink, more often than not, they're made of marble or like some sort of hard stone, which is
Yeah.
easier to clean. I I was like, Averly, you're a wealthy duke. Get a better Diletto. Like, come on. To your point, I was like, yuck. That's gonna be gross.
Yeah. You.
Also, Imogen, I understand that like you're down to clown, but also like maybe ask where it's been first. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't or
Barely.
or Averly, just buy some new ones. Like, start fresh. Start fresh.
Yeah. For your wife, she
Yeah.
deserves that.
But that being said, I really enjoyed the spicy scenes of the book. They were very detailed and
They were
well
good.
written.
They
They
were
were.
really good. I think they might be my favorite spicy scenes of all of your picks to date.
I
So I
agree.
definitely want to read more books by Sandra for sure.
I do too. I thought that it was really well written. I well written on a lot of aspects. Like not only were the spicy scenes
Mhm.
really I thought well done, and having read other books in the series, I enjoyed that like the different dukes, they're part of a club called Club Damnation.
Mhm.
And the owner of the club wanted to make sure that everyone was kind of on equal footing. So if even if you're not a duke, you still have an honorary duke title. Uh, Averly is in fact a duke, but I appreciate throughout all of the other books that she kind of writes in these like kinks that these men have. It's definitely
I
not
think it's
vanilla.
fun.
It is like they go into one has a spanking kink. Obviously, Averly likes using stilettos. There's another guy who's into exhibitionism and just does it in front of the servants all the time. And I'm like,
Oh my god. Would you do
okay,
that if you were a duchess?
yeah, no question. No question. I don't, what do I care? Like, I have so much money. I am a full blown duchess. I am on top of the freaking hierarchy here. Yeah, without question.
Literally.
What about you? Would you do it with an audience?
I feel like yes, but I feel like I would have had to have a lot of champagne. You know me, after a couple drinks, I'm like a different person.
Sure,
And so
sure.
I feel like yeah, like at that orgy ball, probably. I think I'd probably do a lot of things, honestly.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. A thousand
So,
percent. But yeah, I do have to say, I think that the author is very well written in both the spice and also in that like emotional character arc because
mhm.
each of the books in this series, like we have kind of damaged characters, and I think that she writes them in a really relatable way, in a way where you just like you do feel for them. Even if like they make the poor decisions or wrong decisions, morally gray decisions, like you still feel for them, you know? And that's hard to accomplish.
Yeah, it is hard to accomplish. I think, yeah, it does a really great job at like making them really human.
Yeah,
And like, yeah, like the heart to heart when Alan finally started sharing his past about his father dying and his fiance becoming best friends with his sister and then falling in love with someone else that his sister like almost pushed her into as like a lover
right.
before she got married, and he got
Yeah,
engaged again even though he technically has been engaged to Imogen since he was like 11.
right.
Rude.
Well, okay, also I have some bones to pick with the sister because to your point, what the hell are you doing, sis? Like you are telling my fiance that
Yeah.
she should sow her wild oats before we get married. And okay, yes, Imogen did that too. But at the same time, he was doing that as well. When he was engaged to this other woman, he wasn't betting other women. So like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like really toxic, but obviously Avery has a lot of complexities, and so it makes me
Mhm.
wonder. I'm like, "Oh, maybe his sister had a lot of complexities as well. Clearly, she wasn't a
Yeah.
little angel." But then it kind of culminates in you find out that Averly discovered his fiance and her lover, challenged him to a duel, um, killed him, but, like, right as he's doing that, his fiance steps in front of the bullet, it goes through her throat as well, and he basically kills both of them,
Yeah.
and he's heartbroken, and then his sister drowns herself because
She's
she lost
so
her best
mad at
friend.
him. I know. She's so mad at him. She can't deal with the loss of her best friend. and then she drowns herself. Like, what a thing to do. And then poor Averly's just left with all this guilt, just racked with guilt. Like, blames
Yeah.
himself. I felt for him in
And such
that respect.
I think he was a lover boy. Like, I think he was a
Mhm.
lover boy, and he definitely was using all his vices to, like, try to have this harder shell. But you can see even
Mhm.
going back to, like, the gal artist studio that he gifted Imogen, and, like, for the ball, he puts one of her paintings on display because he's just so proud of her. I'm like, "Man, this man is a Pisces, and
I
he
know.
loves love and probably cries all the time in his own room."
It was really sweet. I loved that he put up her artwork. I just thought that that was such a sweet thing, and then the cousin of it all. It all comes back to
Cousin lover. Oh,
the cousin lover.
my new made up term.
It makes me so mad too because Aberley's like, "You know what? I'm gonna tell Imogen how I'm feeling. I'm gonna tell her that I'm starting to fall in love with her if I'm not already." Tells her to like meet him outside. He's gonna do it in this beautiful garden. And then what happens while he's waiting for her? The cousin shoots him in the shoulder and then runs
Also, I'm
away.
really glad that the cousin Imogen, that's not the man you want. Also, he's a terrible shot. He would never be able to protect you, and then so he's a terrible shot, and then he runs away twice.
Twice.
It's a
Runs away
theme.
twice. I know. And then Averly, I love this. Averly's like so ticked that this guy had the audacity to shoot him. So he's like, let me find my gun. And so he goes after him. And Imogen finds obviously all this blood and stuff on the terrace. And she's like, oh no, not again. Not again. Oh my
Dukes comes out and is like, "Well, take heart. The fact that he's not here means that he's like going after this guy because obviously they know their friend and like, but he's really mad.
God.
Like,
Right,
we gotta
right,
go probably save whoever this other guy is because Avery's gonna kill him."
right.
And then they like come upon them because they can hear the sound of Averly's punches wailing into the cousin Philip.
Philip got what he deserved though, in terms of getting his ass beat by Averly. Like, I get it.
He really did.
I get it.
He really did.
But that being said, as much as the cousin lover having shot him is, obviously not a good thing, what it does do is it prompts Imogen to have to be like, "Listen, cousin lover, you served your purpose. I'm sorry that feelings got involved on your end, but I don't feel that way for you. I'm in love with my husband." And cousin lover
Right. So it
obviously,
forces her to yeah, to say like, "Don't kill him. I love
yeah,
him." You know, it's like a
right.
different version of Beauty and the Beast and Gaston.
Yes.
And then Philip is like, "No, like we're so perfect together," and she's like, "No, like
Oh,
we're
and we're
not."
cousins.
Yeah, I'm choosing the Duke, man. And then I don't know. I'm just impressed, honestly, that Avery didn't like just go after Philip and just straight up off him with a gun. I'm like, were you just unable to shoot because your shoulder was also already like injured? Is that why you had to go punch him? Also, the amount of adrenaline that had to be going through him in
Oh my
order to have
gosh.
been shot, but then have a fist fight. I'm like, this man is angry.
I know. I never, but, you know, whatever. I have to say though, I'm so glad that they get to the point of happily ever after and choosing each other
Hmm.
and choosing love because they both so deserve it and they're both such damaged people that truly do need love in their life to be able to overcome and heal. I really, really enjoyed that ending. And I knew going in it was going to be a happily ever after, but I like that they were realistic that like not every day is going to be easy. We're still going to struggle with our own healing journeys, but like we're choosing each other, we're choosing to do this together. I liked
Yeah, I
that.
feel like that is what a real marriage is. I also liked it a lot. And I am glad that Philip, the cousin lover, did not end up dead. I was like, that was
Yeah.
Imogen's only friend when her parents like banished her to Derbyshire. And I'm like, I'm glad hopefully he comes around and matures a little bit. But I also like it ends with a happy ever after where Imogen lets Avery know that she's pregnant because that had kind of
I
been like
know.
the concern. And I was like, they're gonna have a family.
I know, and Averly's so excited, and I like too that, like, they kind of tie up loose ends with his mistress. They mentioned that Averly goes to visit her before she passes away, and, like, I think that was a nice, close to that chapter of his life too,
Mhm.
because he would have regretted it if he
I
hadn't have gone
agree.
to see her, but I did like
He
that.
would've.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because like, she was his main friend, so it's like both of them, there was kind of, like, closure, a decent ending
Mhm,
for both of, like, the main confidant of our main characters. I
mhm.
do wish that there was more closure on Imogen's parents. I kind of was like, "Ah, I would have loved some, like, get backstory for them because
Yeah.
they just kinda seem pretty awful, you know?"
I know. I know. But at the end of the day too though, I think they both carry so much darkness and strife because of their past deeds. Like what would that serve them in the end? Like the revenge would be sweet, but they're already dealing with a lot of guilt that they carry.
I
You're
know, but
like,
it
I'd
would
do
have
it.
served it would have served me, Marissa. Or at least, like, shame them a little bit, and then
Yeah,
because, I mean, now that like, one of the deals with getting a baby, getting Imogen pregnant in the first 2 years is that her father got, like, another 5,000 pounds, and, like, that's
I
just kind of
know.
irritating that, like, I want them to be happy, but also I'm like, "Ugh, her dad does not deserve more money for just using his daughter like property."
I
Um,
know.
so I
But
hope that
that
they got
part
out of that.
did I know. I hope so too. That part did kind of stick me where it hurt. I did not like that. But I don't know. I hope they
Yeah.
got out of it too.
Yeah, but overall, great ending, loved all of
Agreed.
it. Also, the servants definitely make some comments about how they've been like, "Oh, you guys really get on well in the bedroom. We hear and see you all the time in the windows, in your rooms,
Yes, I know.
everywhere."
They really called them out, but all in all, I think a really great book. Like I said, I started reading the other books in the series too. No regrets. They're all really good. And I think this was I will definitely be reading more Sandra Sookoo for sure. But I know we're about at time before we sign off for the day. Mary, do you want to give us a little teaser of what to expect in our next episode?
Yes. So next week, we are going to be talking about Across Time. It's a time slip romance by Elizabeth O'Rourke, and it features a modern day from 1989, essentially a modern day female main character named Amelie, who goes back to pre-World War II France to kind of help this woman, Marie Teresa, and meets her brother, falls in love. It's set on this beautiful vineyard in the French countryside, very like dark and stormy, enemies to lovers, slow burn, but a beautiful book, lots of romance, and I am excited to talk about it with you all next time.
I am super excited too, Mary. It was a fantastic read. Definitely a slow burn, but you guys are in for a real page turner. It's super good. But thank you all so much for joining us for another episode of the Historic Hearts Club. If you haven't already, join the Historic Hearts Club book club on the Fable app for even more hot takes on your favorite books. And don't forget to subscribe to our podcast and follow Historic Hearts Club on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and X for updates, books, book recs, teasers, all that you could ever be looking for or want. And lastly, sound off in the comments with what you think our next great read should be. Until next time.